In researching a recent video, I stumbled across a very curious fact that I was unaware of. And that is the fact that the 2009 Orlando Magic sent three players to the All-Star game that year. This was the Orlando Magic team that the Lakers beat in 5 games. And I thought that was remarkable. I was very aware of the 2010 Celtics and the fact that there were three All-Stars and actually four in the 2011 season that Celtics team had. And I was aware that the '09 Magic, they were a finals team, so they had to have been a good team. Dwight Howard obviously was a beast in the middle, but it hadn't occurred to me that team actually had two additional All-Stars that year, Rashard Lewis and Jameer Nelson. So I started looking into that team, and I started looking into the prevalence of teams sending three players to the All-Star game. And the thing is, with expansion, league expansion, teams sending three or more players to the All-Star game has happened with less frequency over the trajectory of NBA history. So to try to give it a fair starting point, I picked 1988. That was before the recent expansion, which included the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, Vancouver, the Grizzlies, and I believe the Hornets. So there were, I believe, 28 teams in the league that year. So in 1988, so I thought that was a pretty fair point to start at. Since 1988, 38 teams have had three All-Stars, three or more. And, obviously a good percentage of those teams won the NBA championship. I didn't really go into how successful those teams were. Only one or two of them you could really say really underachieved. You had the Atlanta Hawks that had four All-Stars, and they were swept by LeBron's Cavs in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But regarding the 2008, 2009 Orlando Magic, what's remarkable about that team is that team lost Jameer Nelson right at about the All-Star game. And so he didn't play for the final 40 some odd games of the season. He did not play, nor did he play in the playoffs until the finals. Okay? So that team was able to finish with 59 wins, and it lost one of its All-Star performers. Now, the only team in NBA history to make the finals after losing an All-Star for 40 games was the '09 Magic. Let me say that one more again. Or let me rephrase it a different way. That Orlando Magic team was good enough to make the finals without Jameer Nelson, and then Jameer Nelson returned for the finals, and Kobe still beat them. Okay? The only team in NBA history good enough to make the finals after losing one of its All-Stars for 40 games was that '09 Magic team. Okay? Why were they so good? They were so good because in addition to Dwight Howard and Rashard Lewis, their leading scorer during the 2008-2009 season, I'm sorry, the 2007-2008 season, was Hedo Turkoglu, who was not one of the All-Stars. So that team was so good that arguably their best scorer was not one of their three All-Stars. This is the team that Kobe beat 4-1. Okay? That team, that Orlando Magic team, not only overcame Jameer Nelson's loss for the second half of the 2008-2009 season, as well as the playoffs, but they beat the LeBron team when LeBron was at his athletic peak, put together one of the best statistical seasons in NBA history. I believe that 2009 season, that was the highest PER season in NBA history. Not only did they beat that team, they beat the Boston Celtics. That even after losing Kevin Garnett still had 3 Hall of Famers. Both of those teams won 62 games. Okay? No team in NBA history, except for the '09 Magic, have beaten 2 62-win teams in the same playoffs. Okay? No team in NBA history, except for the '09 Magic, beat 2 62-win teams in the playoffs. And in fact, the Cavs won 66 games that year. Okay? And it's really hard to find pretty much any team that won at least 66 games that did not win the NBA championship. Now, I was going to do a video, and I am still going to do a video talking about just how good the 2010 Celtics were. And I'm bringing this up because, you know, in these conversations, in these GOAT discussions, we keep hearing, we hear a lot about how certain great players didn't have enough help, and, you know, how they had to play against super teams, and they had no legitimate or reasonable chance to beat a certain team, and it was just so unfair. No. No, okay? As Kobe said a few years before his death, you figure out how to beat them. What a lot of people will retort is that, well, you know, Jameer Nelson was injured during that finals, and he was just a shell of himself. I've looked at the numbers. He clearly was hampered. Okay, that's fair to say that he wasn't quite himself. It's also fair to say that trying to get by Kobe Bryant will tend to make you have a bad series. You know, who else would have stuck Jameer Nelson other than Kobe Bryant? Okay, but let's assume, for argument's sake, that Jameer Nelson was injured. He was playing at maybe 50-60%, and he just had a bad series. And so the '09 Orlando Magic team wasn't at full strength, and the Lakers beat an impaired Orlando Magic team. Okay, fine. Well, Kobe was injured during the 2010 finals. Okay? No one gives him a pass for that. Okay? But let's say we give the Magic a pass. Okay? Well, Jameer Nelson was perfectly healthy the next year. Okay? All 3 of those All-Stars were healthy during the 2010 playoffs when they got beat by the Boston Celtics, who then got beat by the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay? Now, the difference between the 2009 Magic and the 2010 Magic, basically the Magic swapped out Hedo Turkoglu for Vince Carter. Vince Carter is a Hall of Famer and only a few years out of his prime by 2010. Okay, he had been an all-star, I think 2-3 years prior. Okay, if you compare the two stat lines between the 2010 Vince Carter and the 2009 Hedo Turkoglu, there's not a big difference there. As a matter of fact, Vince was a little better. Okay, so it's really a stretch to say that a fully healthy Jameer Nelson would have made a difference in a series wherein the Magic lost 4-1 and were blown out in at least 2 of those games. So it's important to make this point because, you know, I think Kobe doesn't get enough credit for what he actually did in leaving Shaq and then going off on his own. Well, he jettisoned Shaq, to be more accurate. But he jettisoned Shaq and then went and dominated the league. And I'm going to lay out in a future video how the era that Kobe dominated was arguably the most competitive era in NBA history. Thank you very much.